Many people feel I should be embarrassed or ashamed because of my poor grades in school, my 5 false arrests, or my depression and suicide attempts. But I'm not, nor should I be. My poor grades were the result of lack of teacher insight. My 5 adult arrests were based upon false accusations, and my depression and suicide attempts were the result of my altruism and disdain for the corrupt state of humanity. Why should I be ashamed of those things? Consequently, why should I be ashamed of having a conscience? My conscience is a reflection of my character. Equalists accept the existence of human souls. Your soul is your character, and your character is reflected through your actions, not your thoughts. And what I see is a humanity with a corrupted character, a corrupted soul. You are sheep. You are automatons. Stop doing what you know is wrong. Stop doing what you know harms others. Stop being paid enforcing the elitist will. Stop selling your souls. Say no. Resist. Refuse. Revolt. As a result of my life experiment, I swore to never sell my soul again, to never live off the predation of others, or to be paid or rewarded for that predation. In some apartment complexes I've lived in, residents were sometimes hired as managers, and my parents would often ask me why I don't apply for those jobs. I'd say, I'm not about to make a living from throwing people out of their homes. My parents would counter, even if they don't pay? And I'd say, everyone deserves a home, and no one refuses to pay their rent. They are unable to pay. There's a difference. And my parents are completely unable to comprehend this distinction, and they're unwilling to appreciate or respect their own son's ethical behavior. In the 2001 movie Uprising, written by Paul Brickman and John Avnet, this dialogue motif is asked: can a moral man maintain his moral code in an immoral world? Well, 25 years before this movie, I set out to find out. I wasn't going to learn of reality through books alone, through the eyes of others, but through my own eyes, through experiencing life by actually living it, while maintaining ethical principles, to expose myself to as much variety and diversity as I possibly could, with my eyes wide open, taking notes and recording my experiences. I discovered the elite had complete control over my and everyone else's everyday existence. And in order to continue to exist every day, the elite forces us to harm others for their benefit. As a result, I made the conscious decision that my soul is no longer for sale. I will live the change I desired in society, and I consciously turned my life into an experiment. In a previous video, I mentioned how most people were unethical because they rationalized their predation through the claim of self-survival. The elite force their predation through their employment, and that's the point. These people aren't inherently unethical. They aren't even voluntarily unethical. They're forced to be unethical, yet they rationalize it. I suppose for the sakes of their own conscience. But I discovered the vast majority of these people would prefer to eat and live without preying on others. Jay Gould, that classic epitome of American fascism from the Gilded Age, is credited to have said, "I can hire half the working class to kill the other half." But this is happening today, every day, with every job. Businesses, corporations, and government don't really exist. They are abstractions. They are, in fact, people. And people is all they are. People, just like you and me, make these corrupt entities function. Most every American is now both slave to and enforcer for our elitist oppressors. Everything Orwell warned us about in the book 1984 is now reality. As long as other non-predators continue to follow their elitist oppressors and obey the predatory demands of their elitist employers, nothing is going to change. Live the change you want. Live as you want the world to be. Because the fascists are living as they want the world to be, they're forcing all you to live as they want the world to be. Resist, refuse, revolt. Only when we are united, there's more of us than them. When they divide us, they cut our power by cutting our numbers. That's why they divide us economically, racially, religiously, politically, and socially. It's a small group of elitists who make the decisions, and it's normal, everyday people who enforce their decisions. This is called employment, and it's called oppression. You enforce the oppression of your family, friends, and neighbors, and it's they who enforce your oppression. You are enforcing the price of gas. You are enforcing the need for food stamps. You are enforcing police checkpoints and the surveillance society. You are enforcing the police state, the elitist will. I have sought out like-minded people my entire adult life. As an organized group, they were usually nearly impossible to find at all. But on the rare occasion I did find them, I discovered they weren't willing to do what's necessary to fulfill their goals. They were hypocritical and appeasing to the system that enslaves them. This violated everything I believed progressivism was all about. I began to wonder, if the left doesn't represent me, and the right doesn't represent me, just where on earth do I fit in this world? If liberalism and conservatism didn't represent me, what other choices are there? After 9/11, I again sought to join forces with like-minded liberals and radicals. During a political meeting at UCLA, I got up and gave a speech so rousing it was the only speech to receive applause. But within seconds, after a man in a suit with a briefcase, presumably a teacher, stood up and trashed me, everyone in that meeting turned against me. Here were hundreds of self-proclaimed liberals, socialists, and radicals who so quickly turned against their own and sided with the elite, defending Predonomics and betraying their own principles just because some authoritative person told them to do so. These people were blind and gullible and didn't represent me at all. And what I said in that speech was proven right. The elite don't deserve our sympathy because they exploit us, enslave us, and the elite themselves were responsible for 9/11. And not one of those morons at that meeting ever sought me out to apologize to me. My life experiment began simply as a means to accomplish what the liberal elite refused to accomplish: to end poverty. After Hurricane Katrina in 2005, I heard all these top level liberal leaders repeating the exact same tired old things I've heard for decades. I thought, when are you going to stop talking and start acting? Also, these liberals continue to dance around obvious conclusions and avoiding direct solutions just like they've done my whole life. Here are these pseudo-liberals flapping their lips as if they're liberals, but they're in reality mere mouthpieces for the elite. These liberals don't want to end poverty. They make their livings off of the continuation of it. I realized these liberals were the elite and didn't represent me and never did. And I began to wonder not only how many other liberals felt the same way, but how many conservatives felt that way about their own elitist leadership. This was my epiphany. The elite offered us only two choices. The right want us ruled by the elite through business, and the left want us ruled by the same elite through government. What we got was a third option of elitist control through a symbiosis of government and business. I realized there was a fourth option never discussed: not to be ruled at all. This epiphany turned my life experiment into equalism. This was the uniting thread that linked all the philosophies of Buddha, Socrates, Jesus, Locke, Paine, and Mill. I fully realized conservatives weren't my enemies, but the people telling me they were my enemies. There is no reason why a society can't be constructed that would enforce all our rights, would protect me from conservatives, and protect conservatives from me. And the only people preventing this from happening was our respective elitist leadership. There's no variation, no alterations from their leadership tradition. There's no attempts to unite or befriend what the leadership claimed to be the opposition. Our respective elitist leaders tell us people who believe or live differently than us are evil and destructive. To find common ground with these non-believers, it's them who must conform to us, be like us, or they are the enemy. That's predonomics. And you can see how bad the world's gotten by following this approach. Hey, conservatives and liberals, since you don't like your respective leadership, and in many cases don't even agree with them, why on earth do you continue to believe they have your best interest in mind? Why continue to follow them? 85% of the world is equalist right now, but they don't live it. They just want to live and let live, but they aren't allowed. So, as a result of my life experiment, When I speak of predominant corruption, I speak from experience. I've lived life from many different perspectives, and I've read a lot and researched life from many different sources. What I found is everyone is basically the same. They want themselves, their families, and friends safe and secure. They want to be left alone. They want to believe and live as they choose. They care little how others live. They're unhappy with the corrupt state of the world. They despise the elite, yet wish to emulate them. And they're suspicious of authority, yet, for some reason, they do whatever that authority tells them. In my academic studies, I noticed a common thread tying together many of the great philosophers: the Buddha, Socrates, Jesus of Nazareth, John Locke, Thomas Paine, and John Stuart Mill were the ones, it seemed to me, to reflect this common thread the best. The Buddha rejected predominant society and left it. Socrates and Jesus rejected predominant society, but stayed and challenged it to change, and were killed for it. John Locke tore to shreds the divine right of the elite. He rejected the inherent superiority claimed by the elite, the accumulation of wealth, and he questioned the true value of money itself. Thomas Paine fueled both the American and French revolutions with his egalitarianism and calls for the universal protection of human rights. John Stuart Mill, with his wife Harriet Taylor Mill, questioned the right of anyone to make decisions for another. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you teaches empathy and is one of those common threads. A disdain and rejection of materialism, another common thread, teaches against envy. Money is just another idol to be worshipped, and its pursuit and accumulation is the cause of most human misery. Respect differing opinions teaches tolerance. Human on human predation is the result of elitist manipulation and corruption. Question and reject the elitist systems of the world teaches nonconformity and individual rights. The only legitimate goal and purpose of government is to protect human rights, the human right to be different, and protected from predation, force, and domination. Why not live in a society based on these principles? Why not try that for a while and see what happens? So I chose to follow rather than reject the common thread connecting these philosophers. How about an economy based upon ethics? Or a political system, an army, or police force? How about a social system where predation isn't rewarded, protected, or enforced? And that's where equalism comes from, the real world application of real ethics. There is nothing stopping us from creating such a world. All that's necessary is to remove the elite's power. And one way to do this is through non-participation. When you stop following the demands of predators, you remove their power. War is nothing but gangsters shooting it out over the control of territory. A nation is nothing but an elitist, gangster-controlled territory. And like all criminal enterprises, what makes it function are the people inside the organization who commit the everyday crimes ordered by their leadership. The elite call it making a living. The elitist right embrace a corrupted form of Christianity. But the early Christians dedicated their lives to making a better, non-predatory society. They forfeited all their possessions. They denounced the pursuit of monetary gain. They suffered many hardships and even physical torture. Many risked their lives and gave their lives, all for the defeat of predonomics and the establishment of the human right to live as one chooses. Today, we can learn a lot from their relentless dedication. We can apply their techniques, but we never want to become the persecutors that the Christians eventually became. We never want to allow any leadership to corrupt our true intent. That was the mistake of their leaders, and Christians should have denounced those leaders and continue on their true path of human freedom, which they first undertook. The elitist left embrace science and technology, which are more of a threat to humanity than any religion ever dreamed of being. Science and technology have been truly taken over by mad scientists and insane industrialists who are making decisions for the rest of humanity that they have absolutely no right to make. This is just one of the reasons revolution is so imperative right now. Robotism or cyborgism aren't good even in an equalist society, much less in the military, industry, or law enforcement of a predonomic society. Machines were meant to enhance society, not to take it over. They were meant to contribute to humanity, not to enslave it. The single enemy to humanity is the world's united ruling elite. They are evil, but not demonic. They are greed. They are literal megalomaniacs and sociopaths. They have enslaved and imprisoned the entire human race with their police state technologies, surveillance society, and their unrestrained pursuit of power through wealth. Liberals and conservatives, there's our common enemy. Many books, including the Bible, Frankenstein, and 1984, have warned us this day would come, and no one would see it coming or resist it. Well, it's not coming. It's already here. And every person with a cell phone is too blind to see their own enslavement to technology. We don't own our technology. The elite own us through the technology they forced upon us all. Humans are so blind they willingly pay for their own oppression. Equalism offers alternatives, something completely unique. A system where people of opposing views, by law, must protect each other's right to live differently than ourselves. Where people aren't owned by their possessions. Where people can contribute to their species rather than be exploited by it. Stop trying to change others and start changing yourselves. You are the only one you have any ethical or legal authority over. Who the hell am I to tell anyone else what to think? I have no monopoly on wisdom. You have to find your own answers And equalism is the only philosophy that doesn't tell you how to live, doesn't pretend to have any answers for you, but encourages you to find your own answers and to leave others alone to do the same. This is how peace is accomplished: through non-conflict, through non-predation. Stop being sheep. Stop being automatons. Stop doing what you know is wrong. Stop doing what you know does harm to other humans. Say no. Resist. Refuse. Revolt. I will never pledge allegiance to this country ever again, because this is our nation's true pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United Corporations of America and to the corruption for which it stands, one fascist nation under money, with slavery and injustice for all. The equalism pledge is the only vow I will ever take again. I declare my non-compliance with and my rejection and denunciation of this and any predonomic system. Any participation by me in this system from this point on is against my will. I seek no domination, no privilege, and no conflict. I pledge to end my own predation and unite with other non-predators to achieve equalism, the equal protection of everyone's individual rights. That's the Equalist Pledge, and it's so simple. This life experiment video series will continue in Part D. We're ruled by insanity. Please share this video and my Equalism channel with as many non-predators as you can. Thanks.